Hi, very good evening to everyone. My name is Mrinal Kimji, and I'm really excited to have this interaction discussion with our two esteemed panelists, a power couple, Dr. Ratna Harimat and Dr. Madhu Harihar. Thank you very much for your precious time and giving a very insightful knowledge on Ayurveda. We are hoping we'll answer a few questions which are very concerning to us now at this very unique time in our lives. They have, let me give you a little bit of introduction of this power couple. They have been in Ayurveda for more than 14 years, and they are currently, in partner with Sri Tattva Oman, that has also been very proudly successful in Oman for over 14 years. Without further ado, I'm going to start with ladies first, if that's okay. Dr. Ratna, I want to start by asking you that as we are very much in this pandemic and the whole world is going through this crisis, and we have no choice but to adapt to our surroundings. And we humans are very much creatures of habit. How do you think this change or development, as these restrictions have come upon us specifically for social interaction, how do you think it affects us on our health and our mind?
Thank you so much, Mrunal, for such a lovely intro. And I have actually experienced COVID in two ways: as a person staying at home during lockdown, and as a
Yes.
doctor consulting the patients here.
Yes.
So it's like two kind of a perspective is what I can tell you. The first
Yes.
one, as a person, when I was like, there was a compulsion for the lockdown that you have to stay home for an uncertain period of time, because
Yes.
nobody was knowing what is going on and what is, like, it was like we have hit a dead end. There was no solution for this, and the
Yes.
world, it was like world has come to stand still.
Yes.
So it pushed us actually out of our comfort zone to come out, and I hope Zoom is one among them, like the positive
Mm.
side. What we have seen over here, like we became more actually interactive with the video calls and all that. But yes, psychologically as well as physically, it affected us a lot, because human beings, as we see, we are more social animal.
Yes.
And then that affected us a lot. And basically, what happened when we stay indoors for longer time, there is a kind of a psychological and emotional well-being is disturbed, and there is a boredom feeling. And to satiate that, to feel satisfied with ourselves, most of us actually go for the binge eating, and the lifestyle becomes more sedentary. So lifestyle has this lifestyle, our lifestyle actually risked us to have more sedentary risks, because we were less physical active, and we blamed it on COVID because we were not allowed to go out.
Yes.
And psychologically, because this happened with us, so we were having the binge eating, and there was also the binge watching of the screen and all those things. This was an adverse effect of COVID what had on us. And when I
Yes.
came, and when we started our clinic, the problem, like when people start coming to us with the array, what we can, different kinds of race, different kind of creed, so all sorts, all kind of people had only one thing in them, that was that uncertainty, like what will happen next. uh, do we or will we come over it? See, one thing what people and everybody of us have to understand is, yes, this is a scenario where there is a lot of uncertainty, but given a chance, if there is a positive outcome also, because many people are concentrating on their health, they are taking care of their health more than ever,
Hmm.
actually, and they are seeing like what can I do to improve my, the buzzword,
Yeah.
immunity.
Yeah.
And I hope, we will be like in this session, we will be giving them lots of answers to those questions also. And yes, with Ayurveda, I can see like we are having multiple kind of herbs and answers for that.
Yes. So definitely there is a bit of positive and a bit of negative that you would say, right, to
Yeah.
the situation which has specifically affected us. I would like to tell our viewers, I forgot to say it in the hurry that I was. I have to admit I was a bit nervous. I haven't done this before. is if you have any queries on any concern regarding your health or any of the topics or the conversations that we are having, please feel free to shoot the questions on our question answer sessions. We will try our best within this hour to answer your questions. If not, then Dr. Ratna and Dr. Madhu will take even more time out to email you with all their replies and your concerns, right? Dr. Madhu, do you are almost in power with your wife on what she had to say? I'm assuming you are in a
Yes.
public view. Let me remind you that.
Yeah, yeah. But wherever it is, we have to accept what it is, right? And
Yes.
as you said, the women empowerment. So
Yes. Well,
it's
very politically correct answer, Dr. Madhu. I'm very
yeah,
proud of you. I have to admit
yeah.
it.
Okay.
I'm going to shoot another question out to you that, you guys are the pioneers in Ayurveda, but the knowledge of Ayurveda has been in existence. I think if there are any records found, is more than 6,000 years ago. But I would say that the word Ayurveda is even more commonly used in the last 3 months, and it's become even more relevant during this pandemic time. I think going back to our roots, wherever you come from in the world, it has become extremely relevant. How would you say is actually become relevant? Because we nowadays we use a lot of common social words, but to understand what they mean is something I would love for your insight on.
Yeah, you're right. Because see, let me start with the thing that will give an analogy. If you want to fight in any war, like if you know the enemy, so we
Yes.
have better strategy to tackle them, right? So
Yes.
we are very much in confidence to fight them. But when the enemy is unknown, then we start doubting ourselves. So there are a lot of questions come into our own safety, as well as the self belief starts shattering. So this is
Yes.
what is happening right now, because few decades ago, or sorry, few months ago, we were only talking about the lifestyle disorders and chronic problems like diabetes, hypertension, degenerative diseases like that,
Yes.
where everybody were really confident enough to say that Ayurveda was helping them. Of course it is
Yes.
helping them, but it was more in tune of that thing.
Yes.
Because if you see, we have seen the last pandemic maybe 100 years ago, when was
Yeah.
the Spanish flu or something
Yes.
like that. And
Yeah.
before that we had a few epidemics, like here and there were a
Yes.
bit of epidemics. But basically all the word didn't come together at this the collapsing words. So this is
Yes.
more
Yes.
very sensitive. So suddenly the questions are raised upon every medical system possible, that where is
Yeah.
it, what is it, how is it, this is all the
Yeah.
panickiness starting
Yes.
to very much visible in our day-to-day life. Okay.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is, so once we are again telling about the fighting scenario, so
Mm.
Ayurveda always believed that host is important. So we as a terrain, the whole body is our terrain. So you
Yes.
cannot keep on anticipating the power of an enemy or anything else. So
Yeah.
we always emphasize on equipping our own arsenals, our own skill levels to
Yeah.
combat any such situations. So what we would give an example is, more than 100 soldier, the number of soldier are not important. Even if you had a 10 eminent soldier, you can literally win any battle or a war. So
Yeah.
this is the whole fundamentals of Ayurveda,
Yeah.
which tells
Yeah.
you to work on your own innate immunity and develop that and be confident with that. And of course, wherever there is a necessity, we have very potent herbs and the diet and lifestyles, all these fundamentals. I would say that Ayurveda is never a, okay, this disease, this medicine
Yeah.
kind of a science, because this
Yeah.
is where we are getting wrong. So it is again our mindset. We need to little bit of fine tune it, and
Yeah.
also get out of that reduction science of mentality, and just be a little bit open. And we can literally see the unimaginable potential in this
I,
field.
I would say it's also going back to your roots, right? Coming back to your roots and understanding that nature by itself has the ability to help you boost yourself and your immunity better, and to make you individually stronger. And I think Ayurveda is in power with nature. It is not different from it.
Absolutely, you are right that the
Yes.
thing is, the science is of all about its self, observation and the self care. So this is a
Yes.
very two points where Ayurveda science revolves around. So
Yes.
when we say that self-care, a lot of things come into play, like what we eat, how we live, like what we're talking about, how we are adapting to our new normal.
Yes.
All these subtle changes, though it looks very cliche, but they have a
Yes.
very big impact on our, remodeling our immunity or our
Yes.
health or everything like that. So
Yes.
this is it.
Great. I'm gonna ask you, parallel to what we are talking about, a bit more on Ayurveda to both of you. So I would like both of you to answer this question individually. Is immunity is the latest buzzword, as you said, Dr. Ratna? It's the big buzzword. Immunity. Everybody talks about your immunity has to be strong, then you'll overcome it. Immunity is strong, you can overcome it. Can you please tell us your insights on the actual word immunity, then not just a buzzword, and what is the kind of lifestyle choices and food and nutrition? How is that actually can help impact us during this time, in this lockdown time? We are kind of touching it a tiny bit repetitive, but the whole general gist of the whole conversation is going to be that. So if both of you can individually answer or collaborate and answer, we are free to hear you.
Ladies first, you want to start?
Dr. Ratna, go ahead.
See, actually, every second of our life, our body is under threat of bacteria, virus, and fungus. So
Yeah.
human body has, like, because we are multicellular body, so we have this sophisticated immune system. We can divide it basically in physical barriers, the defense mechanisms, and what Dr. Madhu was talking about, the arsenal, the weaponaries in our body. The weaponaries in our body are the antibodies. We will come to that later.
Yeah.
And how this works actually is in the two ways, like how immunity is divided. One is the innate. Innate means you are born with it. You have that all kinds of immune system in your body, so you are born with it. The
Yeah.
second one is adaptive. That means you acquire the immunity. So I think Dr. Madhu can tell about innate and acquired.
Okay. See, always as we're talking about, first we need to understand that immunity is of two kinds, because that's how it works. See, when we
Yeah.
say innate immunity, which is born with us,
Yeah.
so the first layer of defense, like our skin, our mucosal layer, which is in our
Yeah.
eyes, mouth, and all these stuffs. So it is a non-pathogen specific. That means any invasion, irrespective of a small threat or a big threat, this is the first
Yes.
line of defense for us. So it
Yeah.
helps us to prevent from all those external injuries or pathogens to get an access to inside. So this
Yeah.
is the one of the first thing. Okay, and there is
Yeah.
a one more thing called the internal innate mechanism, where our
Yeah.
the white blood cells come into picture. I'll not go very much detail into it. I just brief you about on those things that
Yes,
they
please do.
help us to the fight the in those who are slipped in, even if the first barrier is breached, if they
Yes.
skip into any of our system, then the first line of defense is the white blood cells. So they gather around. There are neutrophils, the eosinophils
Mm.
and mast cells.
Mm.
All this stuff they gather around and they try to combat that infection. So this is where we need to understand the finesse of the immune system, that any reaction to this first line of defense is a fever or a mild, the swelling or edema or anything like that. So what we
Yes.
do is, so we jump into shoot it or troubleshoot it right away. We don't get the body to, give it space to work on its own,
To
because
fight its
the
own immunity, basically.
absolutely
Okay.
once it does, then the second things comes as the what do you call this, the developed immunity, or the second one is the adaptive immunity, where it learns its own thing, so this is
Yeah.
where, once we get certain diseases, we will not be getting repeated all these things, because our antigens, they
Yeah.
have their that blueprint ready to face the certain similar kind of a threat. But the
Yeah.
thing is, it needs at least 4 to 14 days of a time to build that adaptive immunity inside our body. So nowadays, why we are always succumbing to small infections is because we troubleshoot with the the suppressing agents to cut down the fever and
Mm. Mm.
intervene too much of unnecessarily. So if you give that a chance, if you give that a space for that immunity to blossom, definitely we can win over any kind of the immunity in a larger picture. And it also helps us to makes us more immune to the smaller threats.
I think this is a game of patience, right? This is to understand the patience that you have to have, as you said, I think between 4 to 14 days for your immunity to fight it out. And I think that is something which we majorly as human beings today lack a lot, which is having patience to actually let your body. And I think I think this pandemic has also put a bit of fear in us, right? Because
Yeah,
anybody
yeah,
getting a small cold, small fever, you think, oh, do I have the virus? Who did I meet? Where did I
correct.
go? So I think also every diseases we are worried about, the interaction has increased so much with so many people on everyday basis, that we worry that we don't want to also infect other people when
Yeah,
it comes to whether
yeah.
it's
See,
COVID-19 or any other illnesses as well, which are illnesses that could spread
yeah.
potentially.
See, what I'm saying is what you meant is right. Actually, patience. At the same time, patience doesn't mean that inability to act or react. So we need to
Yes,
provide a certain basic fundamentals, like maintaining the proper appetite and the diet. When we work on
yes,
that aspect, what we are
that's the
eating.
nutrition part of it.
Yes, yes. So
Yes,
when we pay attention to these subtle issues, body will have its own defense mechanism ready to invade, or to combat any of these invaders successfully and
yes.
naturally as well. So this is the point.
Yes. But then one has to have the knowledge of your food choices, your nutrition, and your lifestyle for you to have that ability to identify it. And we will definitely go more into depth with it with COVID as to what we can actually consume and what can happen. I would ask Dr. Ratna that I know you both have a young, beautiful daughter. I have three kids at home, and this is a constant battle that I have, and I'm going to be very specific of targeting this time, is our digital well-being. Which we call, we are constantly indoors. We are working. We are doing this seminar in on internationally on a screen. We are speaking, calling, teaching. Schools have happened for the last 3 months digitally, and it definitely affects you for sure. We think it doesn't affect our skin and eyes and other areas, but it definitely does. And I'm sure as a mom, you must be finding it difficult being the bad cop. I'm assuming I'm the bad cop in this, and then there is a good cop, which is the husband. Dr. Madhu, I don't know if you're a good cop in this. So, how do you tackle that digital battle that we are having? The digital spirit that we constantly have, constantly on our instruments and constantly on our iPads or computer or any gadgets that we have. How do you balance it, and what can we do that it does not have as much of a negative impact? Whether it's getting glasses at a very young age, you get optical issues. My son has it. I have already consulted you for it. What all can we do to help ourselves as well as our family around us?
Yeah, see, when I used to give talks in earlier scenarios, I used to tell this is a screen age, because
Yes.
we
Oh,
are
I love
addicted
that
to.
word. I'm gonna borrow it from you.
So yes, this is a screen age, and thanks to COVID, it is in our face that we are like we don't have anywhere else to go rather than to the screens. So it
Yes.
pushed us to the screens, and yes, technology is inevitable because we are dependent
Yes.
on that. But
Yes.
we need to acknowledge the potential harm that technology is bringing us,
Yes.
because once we are aware of the potential harm that the technology along with all the benefits is bringing us, then we can go for what we call it as a digital detox, because that is essential for us to stay away from technology for certain time duration. Like in a day, initially when I used to tell like for my daughter, what I used to do is, because you hear a lot of things, you read a lot of things about the screen and its effects on our body. So the
Yes.
screen time was quite less during when
Yes.
everything was normal. New
Yes.
normal, yes, you need to adapt to the new normal, so the screen time is completely different. We can't really avoid the screen. That's the truth of today
Yes. Yes.
reality. So what we can do, the adjustments what we can do to make it much easier for those kids and for ourselves also matters a lot. So the placement of the screen, if it is like we have plenty of trendy names also for the diseases, because we can
Yes.
see there is a texter's thumb, there's a mobile
Yes.
wrist, and there is a Kindle strain, computer vision syndrome, and tech neck. So there are plenty of disorders which are lifestyle disorders which are coming through the technology. and these can be prevented easily because they are how we are going with the technology. The first thing is the placement of the screen. Anybody, whoever is sitting in front of the screen, especially with the computer screen, don't place it near the wall or the short distance. If you have a wall, and don't place your screen near the wall. Like, your screen and the wall should be a little further away, at least
Yes.
6 meters, 10 meters. And if you have a window, place it near the window so that you have a longer vision. So whenever you're watching, this is a short sighted, what we are watching the screen. When you take
Yes.
out your eye from the screen, you should have a longer vision, like long sightedness. So that actually helps the eyeballs, for they are functioning much better, because your ocular, the eyeball,
Yes.
gets that exercises naturally. Like, we don't have to force them to do this. If they just take their eyes out of the screen and they do out of the screen, then they are exercising their eyeball.
Yes.
That is the first thing what we can do for ourselves and our kids when we are in the screen. And the other things, yes, now eyes are the important part, eyes and neck basically.
Yes.
Because because as a mother, as you told me, I'm literally paranoid about this, because I can see the changes in the neck, I can see the changes in the eyes, the dryness of the eyes, and all those things actually bother me. Because at the age of 6, if my daughter is having these problems, I am like, it's unable to fathom like how their lifestyle would be like in few years. So
Yes. Yes.
make everybody do some exercises. Because what I do, even if she has she has just half an hour class, but I'm aware the kids have 45 minutes of class, and then they give 10 minutes of break. This is what I'm
Yes.
aware of, what they do in the online classes. So in
Yes.
that 10 minutes, if we let our kid stretch a little bit, just simple stretches, whatever stretches they like, if they do it,
Yes.
it would be much better for their vertebral column, their neck and their back. It will not be forward bend. And eye exercises are very important. And mothers and wives should be in charge of this, to make the husbands and the kids do. Because
Yes.
I know every wife will agree because we are the ones pioneer in bringing the discipline in family. So
Yes.
that has to be done for the kids and for the people who are our loved ones, because
Yes.
that is very important for that. And like, digital detox is cutting away from the technology at least for a few hours in a day matters a lot.
Yes.
Because we have, like, not only the physical imbalances in the body, our hormones get changed with the lot of blue screen watching. Because the pineal gland, what we have here, it
Yes.
it is for the circadian cycle of our health. So it
Yes.
measures the day and night. So if we are watching our screen during night hours, and the blue screen actually mimics the daylight, so when we are
Yes.
watching the screen at night hours, the pineal gland will register it as a daylight. So we can see the overgrowth in our kids, and we also are getting overgrown, like more than our age. Actually, organs are overgrown because the daylight in our brain is more than whatever is our physical age. This
Would you
is one
say
of,
our brain is a little bit confused in this when this happens? So
yeah,
that's why it
Yeah.
has a reaction in a simpler language. Like, would you say we are very
exactly, yes.
confused of it?
Brain gets
Definitely.
confused because brain thinks this is the light, daylight. The white
Yes.
light, the blue light makes more harm than the yellow ones,
Yes.
actually. So if we can do the digital detox by night, what I do at my family is by 8:30 everybody closes the screen, and we are not allowed to touch the screen until and
You're a
unless
trooper. If you are successful in it, you are a trooper. I am success. I'm definitely a failure when it comes to that for sure. But that's amazing.
I have to do it because I have a person watching me at home. If I don't do it, I'll have 1,000 questions coming shooting at me like, "Mama, you are watching the phone. You tell me not to watch. You
Yes,
are
they
doing
are.
this."
Kids are our best
So
reflection.
Yes.
I would
So
say it would be amazing if you can share later on, if not during now, what eye exercises would you recommend and what stretches you would recommend. I also wanted to say, I think when we had this conversation a couple of weeks ago, when I was concerned about my son, we also spoke about how the blue screen light even makes your skin very dry. So, the remedies, I think one of them you suggested is spraying rose water or cleansing or hydrating and constantly drinking. Would you like to talk a bit about that as well?
yeah, see, the dryness of the skin, yeah, it's obviously there because we are straining, we are not blinking our eyes when we are watching the screen. The blinking gets
Yes.
much lower. And hydration part is actually very low because our senses are completely involved in the virtual reality, whatever is happening. Though
Yes.
then we will suffer with a lot of moisture loss because eyes, this is a scientific fact that eyes take like more oxygen from the air, like 80% of the oxygen eyes take it from the air rather than what we breathe. So eyes
Oh,
are
wow.
breathing on their own literally. So whenever we blink we moisture them because anyways air is causing that dryness. So the moment we
Perfect.
stop blinking and we are staring at something, then we lose the elasticity of our eyeball and we lose the moisture. The spray will help. Obviously the spray will help.
Yeah.
Rose water will be beneficial. Even the intake of ghee, the age old Indian ghee, helps to
Yes.
maintain the moisture inside the body, like you're working moisturizing internal of your system. So that
Yes.
works in a much better way. Like if we include that ghee in our diet, it really works to moisture inside out. Whatever external we do, that works too, but internal moisture is more essential when we are talking for a long run.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. We had a concern, I think, from one of our viewers. I think they found the voice a little low. I hope they can hear us better because there was a bit of lagging in the middle, but I think we covered most of it. And just to repeat to the viewers who haven't were unable to hear us, we were talking about how the digital screen impacts us. And Dr. Ratna and Dr. Madhu are very kind enough. They will email us. The team will email us when we send you an email with how you can help with a little bit of eye exercises or shoulder exercises, or how you can rehydrate one of our largest organs, our skin and our eyes. How can little tips that can help us rehydrate. Dr. Madhu, I would like to ask you this. We are indoors all the time, most of the time now. I know in certain areas or in certain parts of the world, the lockdowns have been lifted, but it's still very, very limited. Also, we three of us are speaking from in Oman in the Middle East, where it is excruciatingly hot outside. So our physical activities is very, very limited. And we are indoors most of the time. And we are blessed to have air conditioning around us that at least keeps our body temperature cooler, but definitely it has its own adverse effect. My family always tells me that I live in Antarctica. My bedroom is always like in Antarctica. So I know it is not good for it, and I admit it on live cast that I do admit it's not good for it. But why is it not good? Why is being in air conditioning all the time not good? And how can we, what physical, even basic small activities that can make a huge impact, if you can highlight a bit on this, please.
Well, I think it's really a very apt question because a few months ago, even we were also living in the Antarctica because even she used to have that temperature, high temperature control freakness. But anyway, we were evolved by seeing the personal experiences. That's what I'm going to share now. So,
Yes.
see what we were talking about, that pineal gland thing. The same thing
Yes.
applies here also. The problem is outside it's too much hot, inside it's too cold. We make
Yes.
ourselves more comfortable in whatever the least possible number of AC, like 16, 17, 18, whatever it is. So
Yes.
we try to make that too much coldness to combat that external
Yes.
hotness. So this is
Yes.
where we are going wrong. The body gets confused again. The digestion slows down. It gives you a lot of weird symptoms which are very different than the normal,
Yes.
seasonal changes. So what happens is, when we feel hunger, sometimes we feel digestion is weak, and we feel more binge eating sometime. So these are all,
Yes.
mind game starts playing, because normally in winter the appetite is goes up. Like,
Yes.
the skin preserves its temperature, and that is
Yes.
good for the winter. But right now here, the opposite weather, the seasonally, the nature is telling us something else, but we are
Yes.
going through something opposite direction. Okay.
Yes.
And the moment we recognize it, we start, will be getting the benefits of it. For example,
Yes.
what best we can do is, we can reduce the AC temperature to a kind of minimum, like body temperature, around about 26, 28, 30, so that even if there is too much outside, so we can have that buffer sort of a thing, so that there is not much of variation between two temperatures. And also one more thing is, open up the windows and the curtains, and let the sunlight come in, at least during the first hours of the day and in the last hours of the day. So
Yes.
again, one more thing is, a lot of people, we have vitamin D deficiency, because in
I
hot
was
sun we
gonna
don't go
get to that.
outside.
Yes,
We
I
don't
was
go
gonna say.
outside, right? I mean, that doesn't make
Yes.
sense to get the vitamin D in the hot sun, because we'll be literally burnt in that. So
Yes.
these subtle changes in our life will play a very important role to
Yes.
compensate that, unnatural weather where we are, accustomed to it. This is the best possible way what we can do. I mean, you cannot literally fight the whole thing, but at least,
Yes.
these small tweaking ins will definitely give us a lot of benefits in terms of health.
I
And
think in the Middle East, I'm sorry, but I think in the Middle East we do suffer from massive vitamin D, B12 and D3 deficiencies for sure. And I don't know if it's the truth, but there is an ancient myth. My grandmother used to tell me that if you stay in air conditioning for a long time, you'll definitely get arthritis. Would you say it's correct? I mean, it's
well,
something that I always have a battle. Like, oh, your bones will freeze.
technically we might, because see, again, as it is said, like, I'll tell you what happens, literally, if you see ourselves, observe ourselves, like, we sit in the AC in the office or at home, so we
Yes.
literally don't move. This is the biggest challenge, in the Middle East, the
Yes.
immobility is the biggest challenge. And the
Yes.
second thing is the hydration. If you don't feel like hydrate, because when you're naturally not perspiring, so we don't
Yes.
know that water loss and water intake balance is thrown out of the window. So
Yes.
we tend to forget to drink the plenty of amount of water or hydrate ourselves, and then this
Yes.
is where the small catches we fall into it. And then
Yes.
one more important thing is, as I said, the metabolism slows down, so the immobility takes place. Obviously the joints and the bones becomes very brittle, and that leads to a lot of internal inflammation, and that lead to a degeneration and inflammation and arthritis or something like that. Now,
Yes.
let us go to the remedies also. What best we can do? First thumb rule is, as I said, keep walking at least an hour. Stretch our legs, stretch our hands, stretch our, the whole body, to just take a small walk around, and
Yeah.
hydrate ourselves. Preferably the room temperature water. Normally, a lot of people go for
Yes,
the
iced
cold
water and
beverages.
cold water.
Yeah,
Yes,
summer means cold shakes and so whatnot.
ice
So
creams. It's a season of
yes,
ice
so
cream.
we always have to find the balance. I'm not saying don't enjoy those things, but at the same
Yes,
time, keep an a healthy check on the point. Like, whenever we are sitting, so we are sitting for a long time, sipping the hot tea or warm water itself will definitely
yes,
help to release those the constrictions which is happening in the neuromuscular system. And once in a while, of course, we can enjoy the cold
yeah,
drinks, or
beverages
the
and
coconut
yes,
water or ice cream for that instant, yes.
yes,
But generally it should not be a constant habit, like sitting on the desktop eating an ice cream or munching on a cold beverages will again
yes.
add on to the problem. So
You
we need
have
to just
described
just
the entire this generation. We are very much used to having everything on our fingertips. So yes, you've just
yeah,
described
so
that for us. No, thank you very much for that, Dr. Ratna. I would like to ask you something which is very again parallel. We've spoken a lot about children, ourselves. We've spoken about in general health. We haven't discussed generally COVID, because I think there's way too much information out there, and most people already know. Governments are working very hard towards it, to try and control and curb the situation. But I don't want to forget the elderly. Most of us have lots of family either living with us or nearby us or in other countries. I'm in Oman, my mother is in India. She's diabetic and I'm very worried about her. I keep telling her every other day I speak to her, don't step out of the house, don't step out. So it's a basic fear that you have. How do you suggest that we can help our elderly, whether they are near us or away from us? Because initially when this pandemic started, we started speaking about it's going to affect the elderly more than the children. I think it's in India at the moment, it's affecting everyone and every age very sadly. So how do you suggest that we can take care of our family and the elderly around us? So just to give a bit more light on it, because the information is way too much, and we want to just filter it a bit more.
Yeah. See, what has happened is, especially even my mom and dad both have conditions, and medically speaking, what they call having a diabetes or a hypertension is immune compromised people, because they will be taking a lot of medications for their
Yes.
conditions. So they are called as immune compromised people. So what happens is they themselves are aware of the situation. It's not that they are not aware. And one thing what we need to do for them is um, not to scare them, because
Yes.
that is one of the factor which like
Mental
brings down.
health. It's a big
Yeah,
topic now. Mental health.
yeah.
Yes.
So it brings down their morale and it brings down their immunity as well. What we can, like, yes, they need to avoid all those places, crowded places or going out. They
Yes.
need to be taken care that they are not going out, but yet we need to give them the emotional strength. Actually, we need to be there for them, because that's the biggest strength what they can have. And immunity boosts actually with sense of humor and laughter, actually. So
That's
for that,
amazing. It
yeah,
doesn't need
for
a
the,
medication, right? It's
yeah,
your
Non-invasive.
own, it's your own self. Yes.
yeah,
It's
it
amazing.
has to be there. And elderly people, all they want actually at that age is more love, care, and attention. And if that is given to them, and I feel like they are much better. I have seen
Yeah.
cases personally with all the conditions they have come out of the COVID. It affects everybody the same, but initially, yes, there was the news that it affects more elderly, because the
Yes.
data, we rely more on the data.
Yes,
But
we do. Very
yeah,
factual. We're very factual
yeah,
people.
yeah. But it's not that like it only affects the elderly. It can affect anybody actually. But the fear factor in them, like, oh, I had got affected, then that actually goes down south, because the symptoms and all those things, they start feeling worried, and anxiety and all those things actually make them feel vulnerable.
Yes.
But there was a news that 99-year-old lady, even with diabetes, she got cure of COVID-19. It was in the news, making news and all that.
Yeah.
So immune actually doesn't depend. It doesn't depend on whether you have a condition or not. It mainly depends whether you are nutritionally full, whether you are maintaining a healthy lifestyle, and what foods you are eating. And thankfully, our elderly are more in sync with the nature. They are
Yes, definitely.
eating mostly the junk foods. They are not habituated to the pizzas or the Pepsi colas. They're more in sync with the nature, and they eat basically the traditional cultural food which is there. In Ayurveda, we call it as six shadrasas, that is six
Yes.
states.
Sadrashas, yes.
They make sure they eat all these shadrasas, and it is scientific also to eat all the shadrasas, because immune works with all the nutrients. Like if nutrients are there from A to Z, and if I remove D or E from that, immune doesn't work properly. And in them, the immune is completely full, because they have all the nutrients A to Z. We can see in our generation, we are the ones who are suffering, and we are the ones who are gulping down the multivitamins and minerals and all whatnot. We are so
Yes.
freakishly into it, but somewhere we are falling back. But they, when they eat those foods, they are good. We just need to boost them that they are good. They can do much better.
Yeah. I think they genuinely live life more organically. Before the word
Yeah.
Yes,
organic became more, I think
Trendy.
it
trendy. Yeah.
became more. I wanted to ask both of you this question, that when it comes to food and nutrition, there are companies and there are there are certain herbs that, of course, like I'm very blessed to live with 4 generations all my life, and I've, you hear from your ancestors what are the herbs you can take to build your immunities. For people who don't know, there are new products that have come out, right? Shishi Tattva by itself has a new has a tablet which helps your immunity. Would you like to clarify that what should one do to consume? I shoot this question to both of you. Whoever one wants to answer, or both can answer. How do you? What can you eat at any age or any weather? We have some viewers who are from the Middle East, some who are from overseas. So, what is it that one can do to at least get up their immunity as much as they can from their home or nearby, whatever they can get organically?
I'll begin.
Okay, Dr. Ratna,
See,
please do.
I think you both answered that question in the previous questions, like season. Like if we are following the season and we
Yes.
are eating according to the season, actually we are well taken care. Nature takes care of us.
Yes.
So if we are, see now it's the summer season over here, it's hot, and nature wants us to be hydrated, so we get lots of fruits which are more have a more water content, like watermelon, muskmelon. And in India, I remember we used to get oranges, like Nagpur oranges, Ratnagiri mangoes. These were the things which summer was the fruits. So
Yes.
if we are following what nature is trying to tell us, and in winters the food habits certainly change. And despite having the variety or dominance of one taste, like summer is more of a madhura rasa, like carbs are there and vitamins are more over here, but we do follow of taking all shad rasas, like all the 6 states are involved in our food. So some fruits, if we consider, are having more what we say sweet in taste, some are sour in taste, and some have this astringent aftertaste, some have bitter taste, and even this Indian jamun, the
Yes.
um,
The white ones. The white ones, right? The
no, no,
black
no,
ones.
the purple ones.
Yes, the purple one. Like, okay,
Yeah,
I'm not very sure the English name, but
they
I
are
know there
called
was
as
the Kala
Indian
Jamun.
plums.
This.
Yeah,
Yes.
Indian plums. So they are actually astringent and bitter in taste with sweet. So we used to have these kind of a things, how nature, like it's called a doctrine signature. So how
Yes.
nature actually tells us what to eat. And in the spring, we do have fresh vegetables. Here we get
Yes.
the fresh vegetables in winters. So if we are following that Shad Rasas, let me explain what are they.
Yes.
First
Please do.
first comes Madhura Rasa, that is sweet taste. If we go to the modern aspect, they go with like macronutrients and micronutrients. Macronutrients are carbs, proteins, and fats. And in Madhura Rasa, actually falls carbs, proteins, and fats in little bit quantities. Actually, carbs and fats come in the Madhura Rasa. And
Okay.
if we go to the sour or amla rasa or sour taste, all our ascorbic acid and citric fruits, vitamin C, it comes in the sour taste. And when we go to the lavana or salt taste, the minerals actually, and sodium chloride, potassium chloride, or calcium, whatever is there, it falls into the salt taste, which has to be taken minimal amount. If we see, the salt is always in the minimal amount.
Yes.
Then comes 3 more rasas, that is Katutikta Kashaya, that is bitter, pungent, and astringent.
Yes.
These taste, we can find them in our lentils, green leafy vegetables, and spices and herbs. So
Yeah.
if we see how we are eating our foods, like if I say roti sabji dal chawal, basically we are going for the macronutrients because we have carbs, proteins, and fats over there. Then
Yes.
we put a little bit of spices here and there in our food, so we are making sure our enzyme quality, gut floral quality, because these are the important factors which absorb the nutrients. So it's
Yeah.
also necessary, like what, it's not that what we eat, it's what we digest and absorb. So
Yes.
completely, actually, kind of a customized diet is what is our Indian diet. So very proud of that. So if
Yes.
we follow
The
that,
full
I
balanced
don't,
meal.
yeah, completely
Yes.
balanced meal is what we are having. It's a more, actually more scientific food, what
Yes.
we are having. What is happening is, we do eat all these things, and what is happening nowadays is the fast food trend. Fast food trend is basically fat, carbs, these two things, because there's a mixture of oil, salt and sugar in such a way that it hits our brain and brain releases dopamine, and brain gets addicted because it's a reward system. We will go back to that chip again and again, and what Lays say is
Yeah.
true, no one can stop by one because it is hitting our brain. So
Yes.
though it is nutritionally nil, all the
Yes.
burgers and the so-called processed food, everything,
Yes.
it doesn't work on the body doesn't say yes or no, it's the brain which says yes, I want it, yes, I want to eat more,
It
something like
becomes an
that.
addiction, complete addiction to
Yeah,
it.
brain gets addicted to that.
Yes.
So nutrition
So,
plays, yeah, important role in immunity and lifestyle too, because the factors which affect immunity are in the lifestyle,
yeah.
like lack of sleep and a lot of stress and lack of sense of humor. I think Dr.
Yes.
Madhu will talk about that.
Yes. So I just to give a brief, I mean, try and eat as much as fresh as you can. I
Yes.
know a lot of people in my family, me and my sister-in-law cooking a lot. So, I know that I already feel much better right now because there's no food coming from out and we are cooking everything at home. So I think, as you rightly said, the junk food and the ordering in has all reduced for sure. In fact, in the last 3 months, it has become nil. And we are learning, we're discovering a new side to us. We're becoming mini chefs at this point of time. I'm very proud of it, by the way. So I think definitely fresher food, what is organically available and raw, you would say, and to have a complete Indian thali like the roti, sabzi, dal, a bit of everything that helps your three doshas also to become a bit more balanced and
Yeah.
get healthier. Dr. Madhu, I wanted to ask you, balancing to the food, we always give importance to food. Food is very important to us, but I think the physical aspect I would love for you to talk about. How has yoga, meditation, is it actually a myth that it works on you? Does it actually work on you? And how can it help us during this COVID, this COVID pandemic time that we are even now going through it? I'm a bit scared to go out, so definitely affects my mental health for sure. So how would you suggest, Dr. Madhu, that this would work on us?
See, I think we were all talking about the same aspect of, the elderly people, consoling them and talking to them,
Yes.
humor. So what we're
Yes.
trying to say is that the emotional health is very much important, because, if you see that when we talk about immunity also, there is a very trendy word in the neuroscience world. It's called psychoneuroimmunology. That means
Okay.
how you think and how your neuroendocrine system work and how your feelings are there. So they're all connected with the immunity. So the
Yes.
moment we are very fearsome or when we are in a grief situation, we have a more chance of getting affected with these so-called infections. And
Yeah.
our fighting ability with the infection to the the pathogens or anything will drop
Yeah.
down. So
Yeah.
what? So that
The
means
fear takes over, basically.
absolutely. So that
Yes.
definitely hits the recovery process in a big way. So the mental state or the physical emotional well-being is very much important. So this is
Yes.
where the science of yoga comes into play, because yoga again is not something physical doing itself. It's a very holistic approach. It's a complete aspect of physical, mental and emotional well-being, spiritual
Yes.
well-being as well, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the yoga again brings the discipline in the body, and
Mhm.
the pranayamas definitely increases the emotional quotient of us, so that wherever there is a vulnerability, that can only be the fear can only be won over by these breathing techniques. So, and also the meditation, of course, is the one best thing what one can have
Yeah.
in this
Yeah.
present scenario, whether it is
Yeah.
infection or non-infection. So this is
Yeah.
very much of a kind of, I would say that should be a part and parcel of our life. We have been doing this practice since last 10-15 years, so we can literally see it, and we inculcate in patients. We tell them, so it will be a part of a prescription to suggest them
Yes.
to get to use of these things. And once you start experiencing it, definitely there'll be no stopping of ourselves about it.
Yes. So
So
it should not, yoga should not be restricted to only sending Instagram pictures on the 21st of June for World Yoga Day. You should make it a part of your
yeah,
life and
yeah,
make it a part. And there are enough tools across the globe, as well as the foundation that we are attached to also has, has a lot of tools that we can do. So it's a must recommended dose, I would
absolutely,
suggest.
absolutely.
We've only and spoken about negatives, unfortunately, and I think that's what COVID-19 has done to us. But I feel there could be some positives as well. For me, as a mother, as a wife, and a business owner, I don't think somebody could have even paid me to have such a wonderful time with my family. And for me, that was one of the biggest positives that I could see from this COVID-19. Would you also say, beyond my personal experience, but would you say even medically this could have had a positive effect, having this lockdown, or being in the 3 months or 4 months in this pandemic? Does this whole pandemic have its own positivity? People have spoken about nature and nature breathing and reviving, and videos have gone around of dolphins and everywhere. But on a medical science and the science of Ayurveda, would you say, both of you, Dr. Ratna and Dr. Madhu, would you say that even there is 1% something positive about it?
Of course, of course. I'll definitely vouch for it because see, first of all, the nature is healing. Yes, we all see that, right? Because the man
Yes.
intervention is so much of reduced, so
Yeah.
automatically, it's having its blossoming time on its own. And the
Yes.
second thing is that you know the fact that I'll share my personal experience with my patients. What they're coming and
Yes.
telling is, uh,
Yes.
doctor, I have lost weight. Like you were talking, you've
Yes.
been habituated of that, the normal routine of eating out at the weekends,
Yes.
inevitable parties, inevitable
Yes.
social gatherings.
Yes.
Somehow we munch on it, no matter how much strict we are. So we
Yeah.
tend to cut loose certain,
Yeah.
notions like that. So by default, last 3 months were like cut down. Like there were no possible restaurants open or anything like that. It was like a
Yes.
default set on healthy eating. So a lot of
Yes.
people unaware, even with their awareness is not there, they have lost weight. Whenever they come,
Yes.
they come in a panic situation that, see, I lost weight. So when
Yeah.
we check their pulse and see their whole overall analysis, we do
Yes.
it, we see nothing wrong. So then we had to
It's the
convince them,
positive.
yes, what you lost is the unwanted thing. So it has to go somehow. It went off on its own by
Yes.
the so-called COVID
Yes.
thing. So this
Yes.
is this is one of the things. So what I'm saying is, we need to be aware of certain notions what we have. Sometimes
Yes.
that also plays an important role in accepting the situation. When we always look in a positive aspect, we get the positive out of it. So this is
Yes.
one of the such scenario where the social life, though we are distant, we are in a very distance, we have come close to a lot of many friends through or Zoom or the
Definitely.
social
I
medias.
think yes, definitely. It has definitely helped us get closer to each other. We're making a bit more effort,
Correct.
We're
And also
putting
the
in an
family
effort.
family time, as you mentioned, those who are really having a tough time with the professional life, so they get default holiday mode, and this is where the positive we can reap on, right? So this is
Yes.
something unimaginable, and also nobody, even the wildest our dreams, we thought of this could happen. So this is
Yes.
this is the one of the
I guess
positive I would.
there is a silver lining after all to everything in life. It's just the way we
Yes,
have
yes.
our mindset.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask a few questions. We've got tons of questions, but
Mhm.
one of the first one was about dairy in Ayurveda. Is it a
Mhm.
myth that one should not consume any form of dairy, and whether
Mhm.
you should consume dairy? So that is a question, and parallel to the same aspect between uncooked food and cooked, uncooked vegetables, like raw vegetables or cooked vegetable. There's always a certain debate on it. So, Dr. Ratna, would you like to answer these
Sorry,
questions
sorry
for
for
our
this.
viewers?
I'll take this question because
Okay, okay.
We will
But
take
I
the
need
okay,
I
prayer
need
I'll
and
find a question for
I
you.
need to override for this one,
Please,
for
doctor,
that.
please go ahead.
See, I keep on telling a lot of people that, in Ayurveda, we always treat the patient on the state and the stage of a disease. Okay, this is
Mhm.
very important. So now,
Yes,
when we talk about the diary, I'll tell you one important aspect. What we see in our personal life is also when we have experienced it. So we have been we lived in Europe for last 5 6 years. Even
yes,
there, even in India, even in the Middle
yes,
East, the quality of a diary is compromised. I mean, we all know
yeah,
that it is homogenized, and it's made to
yes,
stay in the shelf for more than like 3 to 4, 5, 6,
Yes,
7 days, right?
it's not the fresh. You're not milking your
Yes,
own cow. If you're
correct.
lucky enough, if you have one. Not
Yeah.
most of us don't. Yes,
This is a factor that we need to pay attention, that all this modern dairy is kind of acidic in nature. And if somebody is already immune compromised, if somebody we are treating a certain ailments, I would
yes.
not vouch it as a healthy food, okay, because it might
Okay,
deteriorate the condition. If somebody is
okay.
healthy, if he is digesting well, they can enjoy the all the dairy product. We are not really restricting on the general notion on it.
Yes,
But if
yes,
somebody is already battling with certain diseases, or
yes,
if they are in certain stage of some health compromise disorders, then
yes.
definitely we will tell them to stay away from the dairy as much as
Yeah.
possible, or at least to
Okay.
minimize the usage of
The
it.
consumption of dairy in
Yeah,
your product.
because whatever we say that ultimately the food is a more of a cultural driven, and it is touched with the emotion. So if you tell them anybody to get out of their normal staple food, it is an
Yes,
emotional shock for them. So which is
yes.
what I personally feel
I
in my
would
way
definitely say
counsel.
more than even luxury. I think yogurt and buttermilk or chash. Actually, buttermilk is also has very different thing. For I discovered in baking, buttermilk is very different, not a regular chash. So
Yeah.
buttermilk, I mean chash and or lassi, salted lassi, and dairy is a very big part of our Indian staple diet. Even the Middle East yogurt, which they call labne, is a very important staple part of our diet. So would you say even stay away from that, or is it okay to have that as well because it's a cooling
Well, see,
effect with the heat?
again, the first thing is dairy is all dairy, okay. So the
Yeah.
second thing is there is always the leniency about it, like with our own will. So there, what I generally believe is I cannot make any perfect template. It's all very individualist basis. What you can digest. So not
Yes.
what you can eat, what you can digest. That's what matters. So in that
Yes.
way, if somebody could be able to assimilate it properly, they can have a good amount of the chaach or the buttermilk, which is the first
Yes.
one in
Yes.
terms of dairy. And the
Yeah.
second one will always be the what do you call, the yogurt, because
Curds.
it comes curd
Yes.
yogurt,
Yes.
it comes the
Yeah.
last. And
Yeah.
if you have an yogurt, try to have it in the hot summer or in the lunchtime, so that the properties will get neutralized with the hot thing.
Yes.
So that is a
Yes.
good time not to eat in the night time or in the evening time. And so the yogurt
Okay.
especially. This is
Yeah.
a small general rule
Yeah.
in the Ayurvedic text which is
Oh,
mentioned.
that's yeah. That's
And
amazing.
also, even if it is a pasteurized milk, what we use, it is always better to again boil it. And a lot of people I have seen, especially those who are habituated to cold milk, they directly
Yes.
get it from the fridge and drink it.
Yes.
So that
Yes.
is one of the not a good healthy suggestion, I would say. So even if you
Okay.
want to have a milk boiled properly, and then maybe use it turmeric powder or cinnamon to just to neutralize those things, and that can be used as a one of the healthy choices. So
Okay. Perfect. And
this is the
also
dairy
with
part. Now
okay,
coming to
and with
the second question
vegetables.
about the
Yes.
vegetables and the cooked.
Yes, uncooked. I
So
think somebody, I would read out their question that would you comment on uncooked and cooked vegetables, and will green leafy vegetables help, or which are the green leafy vegetables that will help in our immunity is one of the questions one of our viewers have asked.
yeah, see, generally, if we call it as Agni or your metabolic fire,
Yes.
if it is good enough, definitely the raw food is suggested in yoga science also. Even in Ayurveda, we emphasize on the raw food because we call it as a
Yes.
prana, or a lot of enzymes are there, a lot of
Yes.
the nutrient micronutrients are there.
Yes.
So, and again, the thing is seasonal fruits. We should always stick to the seasonal fruit. Now the challenge is we
Yes.
get all around the year, all around the fruits. That is where we need to
Yes.
be little choosy about it, and
Yes.
eat in our own moderation all the seasonal fruits, which is of course
Yes.
is recommended. And
Yes.
also with the raw vegetables, if we can digest it, if we don't have any digestive issues, definitely we can have an raw vegetables as a salads, or the whole meal. After, if somebody is trying to lose weight, they can have it as a
Yes.
whole meal as well. This is also
Yes.
one of the possibilities. But again, if somebody is deceased, we tell them to stick to a boiled vegetables, because that is where we keep our digestive system clean and subtle for a few
Yes.
days. It's not for a
Yeah.
long time. So
Yes. I
there
think a
should be,
balance, I would say a little bit of
yes,
balance
yes,
of
yes,
both, a little bit of
both should be
salads, a little
there.
bit of cooked vegetables should
Yes,
be a
yes.
good balance.
So
Basically, everything in life has to be in
anything
a
which is
balance.
natural, anything which is natural can be always considered. And
Yes.
definitely we
I
can
think
have.
spices also help your immunity a lot, right?
True,
With the,
true.
with the combination of spices. Dr. Ratna, I would like to ask you this. A viewer has asked, would you recommend exercises specifically for the digital syndrome, whether they are eyes, necks, or something that one should do if they are unable to go for a walk outside? Then what are the basic, at least basic exercises one can do to keep their body mobile with all the other symptoms that could attack our body?
See, actually, with the digital well-being, like if we are sitting too
Yes.
much on the technology or on the screen, it's better if they can stretch themselves. Yoga actually helps here, because if you are doing anything, not going for a walk or something, yoga stretches will help. But if before doing the yoga, do some warm-ups. Like if you are doing, if you are, you need to discipline yourself and give yourself 45 minutes of time in a day to do warm up and yoga stretches, especially the back bending ones, so that you can strengthen your upper back muscles as well as lower back muscles. So if you
Yes.
do that, your back will be completely fine and much strong enough. And for the eyes, yes, if you are watching too much of a screen, then you need to take a break. Every 30 minutes is what is recommended medically. But I know it's actually impractical to say every 30 minutes, because we are engrossed in a thing and it goes
Yes.
stretches to higher than that. At least
Yes.
every 45 minutes, if we consciously take a break and move
Yes.
out from screen, it would be much better. And we can
Yes.
actually wash our eyes during that time, do some far distance watching or far distance gazing, actually what you can do during that time,
Yes.
because you are doing the short distance.
Yes.
Once you finish your work, then you can do the eye exercises, like eyeball rotations clockwise and anti-clockwise.
Okay.
And in yogic science, it is called as tratak. That means you are watching a short distance something, like you can
Yes.
take your thumb
Hum or
at
a
a
pen.
further
Yes.
distance, yeah, and you can bring
Yes.
it closer to your nose and then go back. So these are the kind of exercises which actually strengthen your ocular muscles, the
Yeah.
eyeball muscles. So
Yeah.
basically, the exercises are for the eyeball muscles, even for the back muscles, because we are using only one kind of a muscles, one set of a muscles. We have, say, our eyes is capable of doing 360 roll, but we will be watching only this
Yes.
180, and
Yeah.
back is actually can do much more than what we are using it for.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if we use all set of actions for our body, then I think we will be much more healthier. And that actually frames digital well-being, like we'll be healthy even using the technology.
Should I say that with the eye exercises, even if you can do a few rounds of Surya Namaskar, which is a sun salutation in English, which is a full body workout, as well as tries its best ability to, if you do it properly, strengthens every single muscle of your body? Would you recommend that, at least if nothing else can be done, would you recommend
Yeah.
that to be done?
Yes, Surya Namaskar actually is one of the best asanas, because it has a set of asanas. You need to make
Yes.
sure you don't have a slip disc or something like that if you're doing Surya Namaskar. If you're okay, you do the Surya Namaskars. Surya Namaskar is the best form of all form of exercises. If you are feeling a little dizzy and all that, go for the slower Surya Namaskar along with the breath. If you
Yes.
feel you are lethargic, you are tired, you don't have energy, go for the faster version of Surya Namaskar exercises. So if
Yes.
you change the pattern and the way you do the exercises, it would be much easier, lighter on the body. And half an hour of Surya Namaskar burns 500 calories. So it's
Wow.
much more higher than walking, swimming
Together.
Or
together,
any other
actually.
form of
Mm.
exercise. That's
Yeah.
perfect. I have another question. I think that we'll wrap it up after this question. The questions are never ending, but we are going to try our best. I'm going to tell this to our viewers again. We're going to try our best to answer all the questions. If we cannot do it now, we will email them to you with a reply, because we know exactly who has asked which questions. But this I'm going to definitely take up, because this is very relevant again to our time. What is the myth around gluten, which is we all know, and does it actually reduce your immunity, or does it increase your immunity? And keto is the new diet around the world. Does Ayurveda have any views or opinion on keto, without getting any political? That for sure, we don't want to buzz, throw anybody's buzz off. But this would be very relevant questions. So both of you, any one of you can answer or split an answer.
You want to say?
You want to take gluten or I'll take the gluten?
Okay, Dr. Ratna, you go with the gluten, and Dr. Madhu, you can go with the keto part.
Yeah. See, gluten, we all like same like the people are having lactose intolerance and gluten intolerance. It's because we are consuming the concentrated form of lactose and concentrated form of the gluten. Because the bread industry zoom like I am not actually blaming anybody, but the bread industry actually zoomed out of proportion in
Yes,
25 or 50 to 25 years. So what
yes,
has happened is the seeds what we get of the wheat, they are genetically modified for having more gluten. We all have those enzymes in our body because we do have glutenase and we do have lactase in our body so that we can digest the both of them, gluten and lactose. But what is
yes,
happening is the concentration of these both ingredients, the gluten is a protein, lactose is a sugar, and
yes,
but what is happening, the amount which we are putting in our body is much more higher than what we have our enzyme system.
yes,
That is the major reason why we are getting intolerance and why we are getting indigestion problem. We are having multiple problems with these two things. It's actually not a bad thing. Gluten is
yeah.
not
So it
bad,
doesn't
even
affect your immunity if you have it in the good organic food form.
yeah, in good organic, the way we can digest. That's why the whole wheat atta, the organic one, is
Yeah,
way better. If you are eating it, it shouldn't cause any of the problems because the blueprint what we have from our parents, co-parents, we do have all these enzymes in our body because they used to eat it, so we shouldn't be getting it. But my personal experience, my daughter got lactose intolerance. So it happened because the milk, the dairy, the modern day dairy which I consumed, so that caused an impact on in her digestive system, so which she couldn't digest it. So what we did was to actually right now we are vegan because
yeah,
we can't find an alternate. But when we go back, when we are vacationing in India, we do take lots of dairy. We go for yogurt and laban, everything. We just binge on dairy because that dairy which is from the cow, natural dairy, we can digest it. So it's
free
nothing
range,
to
as they like to call it, a
A2,
free ranged
free
cow
range,
protein.
A2.
yeah,
Yes,
pasture
definitely.
fed and all that.
Yes,
So
yes.
basically we
Gir
need to
Gir Kai, as Guy
Yeah.
they
Deal
call
guy,
it in
yeah.
India. Yes, yes,
So basically, we need to see the GMO food, basically genetically
yes,
modified organism. That's the one which
yes.
is causing more harm in us rather than the
So
original
Natural.
ones.
so it's a complete myth. If you have an ability and access to get something organic, please, you would say that,
Yes.
unless you are
Yeah.
genuinely tested and there's a genuine issue, that it doesn't affect your immunity, and it doesn't make you put on weight. I'm sure there's the guests who have asked has forgotten. I'm sure they'll have that gluten makes you put on weight. I'm assuming it's not the case if you have that
Yeah, they should be sure that they have glutenase because
in their body.
it's yeah, every wave, like it's a nutritional wave comes like this is a gluten wave, there was a lactose
Yes.
wave, this is a gluten wave, now there'll be immunity wave coming up.
Oh, there was quinoa, and then there is the new
Yeah,
herb, and then there was
quinoa.
a flaxseed phase. Yes, we definitely had that. And Dr. Madhu, how about keto? The new word is keto and Ayurveda. Would
See,
you,
the
I
again,
wouldn't
it's
put you in a spot to say pro or con, but would you agree with that kind of
well,
heavy fat
not
diet?
not not really, because see, this is again a shortcut. You're putting the body to go into extreme situation, starving mode with a high fat and high protein diet. This is
Yes,
where it is something very unnatural to the body, right?
yes,
Some people again have benefited it because when I did my research on these things, and also we have seen certain people got benefited in it, but the
yes,
long term consequences will be definitely be there, that cannot be overruled on this aspect of it.
yes,
So generally we would not recommend as an Ayurveda specialist, because we would like to
yes,
go with the holistic approach. And
yes,
it's a habit. See, basically what happens is, when we are trying to do this keto, basically to get lose that certain kilos of short immediately, right?
yes,
Why it
yes,
happens? Because there is a no connection between our satiation hormone is impaired, like how much we are
yes,
eating, and that brain signaling is stopped, and that
yes,
becomes more fat, and that fat interference in our hunger and appetite mechanism. So to
Yes.
cut this, they put you on a starvation mode and they give you on high fat
High
and protein
protein.
diet
Yeah.
just to
Protein
survive.
and fat.
Yeah, so
Yes.
instead of that, if we cut down the portion size and if we really make a very systemic plan, individualized plan, we can definitely achieve not that instant results, but a very effective, similar to that productive results we can be achieved with this.
With not immediate gain back as well
Yeah.
when you go back
Yes.
to, so there's
Yeah.
a sustainability word. I would use
Correct.
the word
Yeah, that's
sustainability
a
in
good
this.
thing, because now we have seen many people, after they stop it, it comes back with the vengeance. Whatever they've lost it,
Yes.
it comes
Yes.
back into vengeance. That cycle can be broken naturally with the proper adaptation.
Definitely. Thank you so much for your time. We have tons and tons of more questions, but unfortunately, we have already borrowed a lot of time of our viewers. I would like to thank both of you for taking time out, and
Thank you.
special thank you to
Pleasure is
all
mine.
our viewers to join us and support us and to hear us. Please be rest assured that we will definitely answer all your questions. If you would like to do any consultation, and if you're really fearful to go to the clinic, both our doctors are also doing tongue mapping. Basically, they check your tongue and then they can diagnose you, and it is also a very accurate diet. I have done it myself and I've been very happy with the results as well. So I would definitely recommend that. We will answer your question as soon as possible. Thank you very much for your time. Have a lovely
Thank you, Mrinal.
evening.
Thank you.
Namaskar.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you. We
Thank
will
Thank
you.
go
you.
in the age of
Thank
namaste.
you.
Thank you very
Yes,
much.
thank you.
Yeah, thank
Bye bye.
you.
Yes.